let's look at Intel. First off, read this disclaimer carefully. In this video, we will go into a very interesting zeitgeist, which I call data processing. Right here, quite significantly outperforming the S&P 500. A very mixed bag here though. Bunch of different companies. In this video, we will actually look at the big laggard, which is Intel. Semiconductors, 12% from the 52-week low, 29% away from the 52-week high. Definitively the laggard in this space. You can see Nvidia and CyberOptics doing pretty well, along with AMD. But you could make a case that, stocks like Nvidia, they have had a major run, so from a bullish perspective, maybe it's a bit overextended. Hence, I think a bit contrarian here. Okay, so here is Intel seasonality. You can see that August, the current month, is, a bit more mediocre, but certainly it improves into the later part of the year. And you see that that pattern was also relevant between 1990 and 2009. Let's look at it against, let's actually look at it against SMH, which is the semiconductor ETF. Like that. It actually slightly tends to outperform the SMH in September and October and November. It's slight though, 53% of the time is very slight, but it is a little bit. 58% is a bit better. Let's just look at it against the S&P 500 and get a bunch of data. Oh wow, October is really strong. August really quite bad. Okay, here is Intel's website. Intel, it's a semiconductor company. It's big boy. It's in a lot of different devices out there. They have extremely powerful semiconductors. If you want like super extreme performance, you often just go for Intel. And here you can see they're very wide portfolio. Let's go here into these charts. This is the super big picture, weekly data points, and here we go way back here to 1986. This is Giga picture. So here you can obviously see the major dot-com bubble, a super crash. It actually took quite some time for the crash to completely price in the lows. The low here was here, minus 84%. From this low here to the recent high was 492% gain. You can quite clearly see a very nice rounding bottom pattern. Another thing we see here is that there are these rhythmic patterns, cycles. It moves in cycles. The cycles are to some extent predictable, but let's actually see how they match up here. I mean, you could make the case for some kind of seasonality, some cycle patterns here. The cycles, of course, they can change. That's something you just have to be aware of, and you can see that there's been these major cycles and smaller cycles within. Here you have a major cycle, but within this big cycle, here you have 1, 2, 3 smaller cycles. Similarly here as well, 1, 2, 3. Here, 1, 2, it's a bit more messy. The reason why I found Intel to be quite interesting is that you see here that this red 200-week moving average, test, 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 and test. So it's been a support level throughout this entire rounding bottom pattern. Sure, it is possible to break below it, but given that we have a lot of history here, we've had major pullbacks in the past. This pullback here is an example, huge pullback, minus 29%. Eventually, it functioned as a support level. To here, minus 27%. This most recent sell-off here, minus 27-ish%. I'm seeing something a bit similar. Let's go back here to this sell-off. Minus 30-ish%, then support. There seems to be a pattern. There seems to be a pattern when it comes to these cycles and where support comes in and the buyers step up. We are seeing that a bit now. Support, buyers are stepping in. It is of course speculative to buy at the support level, but it has worked. Hence, if you are going to use this as a support level, then your stop, would be, a clear break of that support. There have been fake outs in the past, but the thing is that if Intel were to actually pull a break and for the 200 week to become a resistance level, then something much worse is afoot. But at this point, I can't help myself but to think that data processing is a very powerful trend. Intel does have extremely powerful processors. There is a market for their products. Yes, they have faced more competition from AMD, sure, but Intel has very good processors. They just do. They have a lot of customers. And the recent challenge can also spur Intel to become more competitive as well. Hence, I do think that you could make a bullish case here. Speculative, though. The accumulation distribution line on the weekly is not yet showing that much buying. There's a 68% positive correlation with S&P 500. RSI. We were not oversold, but starting to approach it. Let's look at the daily data points. It pays a dividend, that's nice. You can see here we are actually below most moving averages. Due to these frequent cycles, the moving averages are thrown around like ragdolls. Hence, these kinds of cycle stocks, the moving averages on the dailies especially could become just less reliable, because here you have golden cross and death cross all over the place. So those like signals are just completely useless here. Because if you were to trade off it, be like, oh, here's the death cross, let's go short. Oh, here's a golden cross, go long. I mean, it wouldn't make sense. We were oversold here. If you look at the bigger picture, you see here on the RSI, this stock, it doesn't like to be oversold. It just doesn't. Nor is it that big fan of being overbought. It likes to stay within the RSI zone. We are seeing some buying here on the accumulation distribution line. I would like to see it a bit more, but so there's not like huge volume of buyers yet. It's interesting though from a speculative perspective. Let's look at some additional data. Options are available. Definitively, this is a very liquid stock. It's very shortable as well. Here you can see the performance, not good. It certainly is one of the laggards in the space. What I of course find very interesting is to look at the analyst price targets. The stock is currently trading for $48.89. The analyst price target is actually $56.82. That's over 16% above the current level. If you get into the options market, you could see a lot more than 16%. Yeah, if it moves up there. And a move to, after $57-ish, $57-ish, it would be around here. It's a significant move. If we go to Saks.com, they have a number 3 hold on Intel, A value score, A growth and D momentum. So the style scores are spectacular. Let's actually compare those to AMD. Like that, AMD, which is the close competitor. D value here from AMD, so AMD is definitively not a value stock. That's interesting. Market cap $208 billion US, a 2.7% dividend. That's really good. Okay, this is a high flying tech stock, but the dividend is nice and juicy. This is becoming more and more interesting. When it comes to the industry rank, top 29%, that's decent. The sector rank, top 31%. It's starting to become interesting here. Okay, so to sum up my take here on Intel. Okay, I do like the theme, the zeitgeist theme, data processing. It's a very powerful trend. There is definitively demand for data processing. It's very hard to see that going away. Intel, they do have very powerful processors. For quite some time, especially when you were in the gaming space, Intel was the place to go. They were, though, quite richly priced. The processors were expensive. They were always like the one you would preferably buy instead of AMD. Then AMD, with their Ryzen CPUs, they really started to become very competitive. But Intel is not stupid. They know that they have stronger competitors now, and that could actually spur Intel. Nothing like, some fire under their feet to get them moving. And there are some very interesting signals we have found there. So I would be speculatively bullish here on Intel. Okay, now we have the chart frenzy part of the video. Let's first look at IBM. International Business Machines. This is not, very clear a downtrend. But this is a bit tricky because it's not really that shortable, because a lot of bearish gains have been made. It's not really bullishly buyable yet. There's no clear signal there either. So this is kind of like in no man's land. After this fall, though, there could be some consolidation potentially. There are option strategies for that. The travelers companies. Yeah, due to the pandemic situation, we did see a major crash with this stock. Did get a double bottom, rallying. Then we meet resistance here at the 50-week moving average. Yeah, you do have the resistance level quite clearly here. So we're kind of stuck. Interesting. Yeah, this one is also there's no pattern that just jumps at me screaming. Let's look at Nike. Yeah, all-time high. Yeah, that's of course bullish. The bulls are in control. Bulls have already made a lot of gains, though. If you look here at the psychology of the stock, you do see that the pullbacks are frequent, and every now and then with Nike, you do have these deeper contractions. Like here is a major contraction, here major contraction, here of course during the pandemic. So the problem here with Nike is that there's such a big difference between being on the right side of the trade or not. And when the bulls have made their gains, they usually are made. There can be some protracted downtime. Hence, this is one of those to potentially have on the radar for a bearish opportunity. Long term, it's bullish, but the psychology of the stock here is quite clear. It likes to have pullbacks after big rallies, and we have just had a big rally, so yeah. Then we have JP Chase and Company. Here's a banking stock. You can see that there are these clear major cycle patterns. Here we also have a big cycle. The question now is whether, we have had a major declining cycle. Could we see the beginning of a new rising cycle here? That's the question. So I would be more looking at this one for potential bullish opportunities. Though due to the action of the Federal Reserve, the big central bank, it's going to be very interesting to see how the banks will fare. But JP Morgan is one of those very powerful banks, so it's one of those that will, it's a good friend of the Federal Reserve, so they have powerful buddies, which helps. Whatever you do, of course, don't fight the trend, and may the trend be with you.